Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the shiur in Kuntres HaTefila, in a tract on prayer. And this is very exciting. Thank you for joining us for 15 minutes. And I hope, like I said in the video, you'll join us for the 15 minutes and you'll see how the 15 minutes will change your life. So I would like, if you can turn to page 97, I think it is, Perek Yud, chapter 10. Just a brief introduction before we start, and good morning, everybody. So a brief introduction before we start chapter 10. First of all, I guess the reason why we'll start chapter 10 is because, I'll tell you a quick story. So I had a friend so I had discussed with a chavrusa of mine to learn Chassidus, and I've learned this before, but I didn't really fully understand it. And then I learned it again with a friend. We went through it like 2.5 times, and it blew my mind. And I was like, whoa, I finally understand this. But one of the things, so when they teach it in yeshiva or yeshiva brachim learnot, they start from Perek Yud. Why? Because the first 10 parakim, you can sort of say it's like the long, short way of Tanya. And so it's very intricate, and it's a lot about how to meditate. And it's heavy concepts, heavy discussion. So my friend, he told me that he had a friend that was learning by himself, and by the time he got up to chapter 10, he left. He didn't finish learning. It was too hard for him. And it's funny because chapter 10 basically sort of the short long way, and he discusses in its 8 chapters, and it discusses sort of in a very practical, down to earth terms how to daven and how to work on ourselves. So that's why we start from chapter 10. We go to 10, we'll go to all the way to the end, and then we'll go back to the beginning. And with the basis of the first from Yud to Yud Ches, the first from 10 to 18, you'll have what to work on and what to try to implement. Then you'll start to see, when you go into the beginning, the depth that there is, and there's so much more that we could be trying to achieve. And this way we won't lose ourselves. Another thing, the reason why this was written, Chassidus is written for reasons, and especially this one, saying is a Kuntres. The Kuntresim that the Rebbe Rashab wrote is different. There's Kuntres HaTefila, Kuntres HaMayin, Kuntres HaAvodah, Kuntres HaChaim. I'm in the middle of Kuntres HaMayin. I've learned Kuntres HaChaim. I learned it a few times. The reason, and so there's reasons Rebbe Rashab wrote it. The reason why he wrote this one was because basically those 3 things that happen. If you look in the beginning, and you can look by yourselves, and you'll see what it talks about. Basically, in short, 3 things happened. The Chassidim, in the times of the Rebbe Rashab, we think they were very big, great Chassidim, and there were a lot, but they didn't know how to daven. And a few things happened. One was the Rebbe Rashab instituted Timchei Timimim, and suddenly people were being exposed to these, so to speak, kids, younger adults, immersed in Chassidic lifestyle, and davening and learning, and they saw these people like living this wholly different lifestyle. And it was like, it changed them. They're like, whoa, what are these guys? Like, I want to do that. And then another thing happened was the Rebbe Rashab said, Maimer Echalzu, which is a very famous Maimer, and it's basically about Avos Yisrael and about working on negative characteristics that we have, and how to improve that, and through davening. And then the Rebbe Rashab said during the Farbrengen on Simchas Torah, he also talked about how to work on ourselves, and it has to come through davening. And the Rebbe Rashab was, when you read this, you see very much davening is the key to working on ourselves and to change what negative things we have, and also how to connect to God, connect to the Eibishter. And so the Chassidim were aroused to do this. They said, but we don't know how to daven. So then he wrote Kuntres HaTefila. And that's how Kuntres HaTefila came about. And then we have the fortunate ability to be able to learn it. And one more thing, I was discussing with Michal, and she said it comes off better when we say it in English. And so I guess I'm not going to read in Hebrew unless enough people want it in Hebrew. I'm happy to read in Hebrew. That's how I learn it, but I don't want to. The purpose of this is not to just show I can read Hebrew, but it's so we can learn. So unless also, and one more thing, whoever has any questions, feel free to ask. The more questions, the better. And yeah, before we start, anyone has any questions? Good morning, Khani. Anyone have any questions? No. Okay, let's go. So whoever has the book, also we have a book if one needs. We have some copies. We can give you at a discount price. Starting page 97 or 96, technically, chapter 10, energizing the observance of mitzvahs. So you see how he has like little notes of how, like what it's going to discuss. Pray instills vitality into one's fulfillment of mitzvahs. So through davening, it helps you not just in the actual davening, but it helps your whole day in how you fulfill your Torah mitzvahs. So let's see, a solution for others. So now we're going to explain basically the Rebbe Rashab is saying, if what we talked about till now doesn't work for you, you're not on the level or you can't do it. So here's another solution that you can do it. Have the same connection, it's just in a simpler way. If one's faculty of das is inadequate and prevents the person from binding himself to the godly essence of the concept, he can still engage in the avodah of prayer by meditating on familiar subjects. So the Rebbe Rashab is saying like this. Until now, he talked about learning Chassidus in a way that you connect to it. Who knows? Can I ask, maybe someone can try to share with us what does the word das mean? Anyone want to try? Anyone? Das?
What was the word?
Das. Does anyone know what it means?
It's like a perspective on how you see the world.
You want to elaborate?
Sure, it's like applied knowledge and how that affects your paradigm.
Okay, very good. So one of the things, and the reason why when I learned this the first time, like years ago, I didn't fully get it, is because a lot of these concepts, we don't understand what they mean. It's very difficult to understand what he's trying to say. So I'll just elaborate on what you said. So das is not just about knowledge of a subject, but it's about the connection to that knowledge. A simple example is a person learns, in the 50s where smoking is still considered healthy and it's totally fine. So there's a doctor that he realizes that a lot of people that are coming into his office that have a cough, they also smoke. So he looks and he's like, this confused. It's interesting. Why is it that there's people that cough have a smoke? The people that cough also smoke. So he says to himself, so that's the level of chachma. You have like this flash of an idea, like, this is an interesting idea. So let me study this. So he does a test, he does a study, and he looks into this, and he looks into the correlation between smokers and coughs. And that's bina. And what's the conclusion of this study? The smoking is not good for you. Das is the question of whether he's going to stop smoking himself. Why? He intellectually knows it. He has the chachma and the bina. He understands it. He understands that smoking is bad. He's studied it, and factually he sees that it's not good for him. But emotionally, he's still connected to smoking. It could be that he'll still smoke. It's like there's a story about the Frierdiker Rebbe that he was smoking in America. I think it was near the end of his life. He was smoking, and there was a doctor in the office with him, and the doctor says to him, "By the way, smoking is bad for you." And Frierdiker Rebbe was like, "Oh, I didn't hear that." And like 5 minutes later, the doctor he took out a cigarette and he goes, "Yeah, I smoke." So Frierdiker Rebbe goes, "I don't smoke." He said to him, the guy's like, "Well, I just saw you smoking." He goes, that was before I knew smoking was bad for you. But now I know I don't smoke." So this doctor, even though he heard and he knew that smoking was bad, he didn't have the das. Das is when you know something, not just an intellectual level, but you feel it. And what the Rebbe Rashab is prescribing for us is when we learn Chassidus, we don't just understand the Maimer that we're learning intellectually, but we feel the Maimer, we feel it. Just like if someone hits the window and it breaks, it feels uncomfortable, not just intellectually, it's not a good idea to break the window, but you feel it. It taps into you into a deep place. So too, when we learn Chassidus, that's what's meant to happen. But he's saying, what happens if a person doesn't have that das? So he's learning something. The person is learning. You sit there, you learn every day 15 minutes, or you have a shiur or something, but you're not really connecting. It's very hard to connect to the godliness in it. Meaning, and he discussed it before, the godliness in the concept. It's like, so what does this mean to me in my relationship with God? And what is the Rebbe, whichever Rebbe that I'm learning, what does it mean to me? How am I meant to connect to this? So he's saying, if you don't have that, so he goes, don't worry about it. Nevertheless, he can concentrate deeply on them. So you can take ideas that you're familiar with. Meaning take something that you do know, you do connect with, something, not necessarily have to find a mime every time, but something that you can connect with. It could be a parak in Tanya, a chapter in Tanya. It could be something that you connect to, whatever it is. And you can daven with that. And you can think about it, you can meditate on that concept, and meditate in a way that you can connect with them. You can concentrate deeply on them, connecting himself through comprehension and through contemplation until he senses the subject vividly in his mind. And that's meditation, according to the Sefer, is that you take an idea that you've learned and you not just repeat it. That we get taught to learn, let's say Parak Mem Aleph of Tanya before davening, the beginning of that parak. But so what do? People just memorize it and just repeat it. And the purpose here is not just to repeat words that you've memorized, but it's to think about what those words mean. And like in Parak Mem Aleph, what he says over there, he says that you have to remember that God is watching you, and God cares about what you do, and he removes himself from all the high worlds and low worlds, and he stands next to you and watches what you're doing. So you can repeat those words, just say that word, and you can say that every day, and it doesn't mean anything. Or you can think about it. What does that mean? Well, what does it mean, God? What level of God are we talking about? And over here we talk about this as well. Talking about level of God. God, not just how God works in this world and he makes this world run, but talking about God as he's infinite, past everything, past any even thoughts, and even the thoughts we can have on what God means. That's not even close to what we're talking about. And that God is putting aside everything, and he's standing next to me and he's watching me because he cares about what I do. And when we meditate on this and we think about this, I'm like, whoa, now I'm about to do a mitzvah, I'm about to daven, I'm about to give tzedakah, I'm about to speak to my friends. God is standing next to me, watching me, and he cares about how I'm going to do this. And when we spend the time to think about this, and that's what essentially meditation is thinking about these ideas in a deep way, it will produce within us, it'll have its effect emotionally, and we'll get excited and we'll get more with awe. And this is what he's saying, we can do this. Until you sense it vividly in your mind, in his heart too, and also in your heart, that you'll feel the goodness of godliness. Insofar as his heart will be stirred with a manifest feeling of love and awe, commensurate with his meditation on the contemplative themes. The more you meditate on the subject, the more you have what to think about. The more you have what to think about, the more you can meditate, the more the meditation has its effect. If you can think about like the concept we just talked about before, about how God puts aside everything and he stands next to us and he cares about what we do. So you can just say, oh, God is great and he cares about me and he cares about what I do. And that's it. And that won't have so much effect on us. But if we spend the time meditating, what does it mean, God? And what level of God are we talking about? And what does it mean, the mitzvah that I'm doing? And what does it mean that God puts aside everything? And there's a whole world, 7 billion people, from here to the sun, it's like miles, 8 minutes light years away. And all that, and God, all that to God is like nothingness. And God is way above all that. And to create the world, it takes him just one moment. That level of godliness comes down to me, and he's standing next to me, so to speak, and he's watching me. And he's saying, Bina Hashem nitzav alav, and he's standing to us, and he's looking inside of me. God looking inside, how am I fulfilling this mitzvah? Do I really care about God? Do I really care about the mitzvah? And he's watching me, and he's standing there. And it makes a difference to him whether I do the mitzvah properly or not. It makes a difference to him whether I wait 6 hours between meat and milk, or I just eat straight away. And it's like, whoa, he really cares? Whoa. Let me do this properly, Imagine the person that you respect the most in the world was standing next to you while you do a mitzvah. You'd have a different feeling. And this is what we can achieve, but it's based on the meditation. And in order to meditate, which means think for a period of time about the concept and try to unpack it, and really, don't just say God likes me, let's do this mitzvah. But like, what does it mean God? What does it mean he likes me? What does it mean he cares about the mitzvah? And it might be that we don't, if we don't have so much of a knowledge of Chassidus, it's harder. The more we learn, the more we understand what does it mean God and these different levels in Atzilus and Bria and Etzir. It's not just random levels, but we can understand what does it mean God. When we talk about God, how infinite and how far removed in a certain sense he is, but in the same hand, how close he is, how much he cares. And that's essentially meditation. And that's 15 minutes. But as we go, we'll start to get a little bit more, we'll go further, we'll go a little quicker. But just want to make sure I have some certain, because we talk about this concept a lot throughout this whole sefer, so I want to make sure we get it well.